Hello everybody, Lawrence Fleming here again. It's very busy out there. We keep wondering how bad is it going to get. It's not a challenge, God, but I don't think it's bad enough yet, but it could change just like that. With war going on, continuing, we're 16 days in, and they haven't begun their ground invasion because the United States got in and got them to slow it down a little bit. My question is, frankly, which side is Biden on? I've got my laptop in the way. I got to get this out of the way. Okay, that's better. Which side is Biden on? He's not on Israel's side, I guarantee it. The world's not on Israel's side. You just look at around the world, all the places that turned into socialists or communists and said, "Oh, come on in, let the Palestinians, let the Muslims come in, and you can set up your own little area." The United States, when it was established, people came in and brought the best of their country to the United States. We became a melting pot. We're not a melting pot anymore. We're a non-walled, divisive country. People come in and they set up a little community with what they think they should have had in their own country. They do the same things here that they did in San Francisco for a long time when I lived out there, when it was nice. They had to deal with people going into Golden Gate Park and killing animals and eating them. It didn't matter what it was, dogs, cats, didn't matter. Some of the local stuff, squirrels, because that's what they would do in their own country. They didn't come here to be a part of the United States. They came here to have their country here. They put all the street signs up in their own languages. There'd be no translation below them. That is not a melting pot. That is not what you want to have. Because as long as you've got something different that you don't have time and you won't communicate with each other, there's going to be divisions. And that Shiite versions of Islam is where the radicals live. The leaders, the Ayatollahs, are their spiritual leader. Separation of church and state. Yeah, they have it too over there. It's called throw the state out. We're in charge. The Church of England, where we got King James and a lot of the other ones over there, Henry VIII, they were bad people, and they used the church to stay bad. Okay, so as the war continues on, you watch the news. If you watch the mainstream news, Israel is the worst atrocity giver of anybody in the world. They compare Israel to Hitler. Really? They're relying entirely on the lack of education. They've dumbed down our education system. They're not teaching kids the truth. They're teaching them lies so they can continue their lies. So, trying to get back to our topic of importance right now would be the rapture. When is it? Dr. Barriott currently says that the next high watch date would be Halloween. Why Halloween? Well, on his big, gigantic timeline that he puts up, the 31st is the calendar date that matches with the Jewish calendar date of when the flood happened. God does things on times, on regular intervals. I agree with that. It's not a festival, but Halloween could be a high watch date. Of course, what's Satan going to do on his day? Like most of the things that we do and celebrate nowadays, they have a tie back to a pagan holiday. It was their fall festival, and they would do pagan things. And it's turned into this All Hallows Eve. But then to clean it up so they can get away with doing what they want to do without scaring everybody, they turned it into Halloween kids thing. Go out and ask for candy. Early on, people used to do tricks. They don't do them anymore, I don't think, because most of that stuff is illegal. But Satan has to get in and muck up everything. Okay, well, I want to get back to our rapture timing. We still got our war going on. Is that the travail that we're supposed to be looking at in Revelation 12? It doesn't say, travail as in Psalm 83 or Ezekiel 38. It doesn't give a reference. It just says travail, which is war. It's also tied to birth, labor. So if you look up the word travail, it is a painful or laborious effort, labor. So that's 3 ways we can kind of look at that. So I'm going to look at John 16:20 real quickly, 20 through 21, I think. Verily, verily, I say unto you. Okay, first off, the verily, verily is Jesus talking. That's his. This is very important. Pay attention, people. Verily, verily, I say unto you, that ye shall weep and lament, but the world shall rejoice. They don't want to have anything to do with us. They'll be glad when we're gone. But the world shall rejoice, and you shall be sorrowful, but your sorrow shall be turned to joy. Why? Well, a woman, when she is in travail, has sorrow, because her hour is come. All these other words that they use to describe a birth event. But as soon as she has delivered the child, she remembereth no more the anguish for joy that a man is born into the world. Yeah, they were patriarchal back then. They didn't talk about women. Often they didn't even mention them when they're talking about ancestry stuff. That's an aside. We won't go down that right now. 22, and ye now therefore have sorrow, but I will see you again, and your heart shall rejoice, and your joy no man taketh from you. Okay, so he's going to go away, but he's going to come back. He'll bring the joy with him when he comes back, but his Spirit is going to give us the joy too, on earth. But you have to accept it. So what have we got coinciding with this month that it could be a rapture sign? If you read Revelation 12, the Revelation 12:1 sign, we've already had 12:1. There appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed in the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. Well, 12 bright stars. You have to be able to see it. With a telescope, we can zoom in on 1 square centimeter and find 1 billion stars. So that's not what we're talking about. Ones that you could see. And the only ones that you could see were the stars that are part of the constellation and the planets that got into alignment on that particular date. Over 6 years ago. Is that enough time? Does it have to be 7? That would put it next year. Worst case scenario, it could be next year. I don't think so, but it could be. We still got nuts falling from the trees. Every time the wind blows a little bit, we have leaves that are beginning to change. They are no longer green and brown, they are brown. I will have to start. I might get one sweeping of the deck in before I get out of here. My stay here ends on the 1st. The 1st I will be moving to a campsite, if we're still here. I hope I don't have to move, frankly. Or if I do, I don't have to pack. But I will have to prepare for it, because nobody has a red phone to God to say, do I need to pack? He won't tell us. Okay. So now in Revelation 12, we're talking about the labor pains, and she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth. So she's in labor pains. That is a war. Israel is in a war right now. We don't know if this is the war that Revelation 12 was talking about, but it is a war, and it is a time. Pretty soon we're going to see some signs in heaven again. Well, we've had an eclipse, a red ringed eclipse, red being a sign of the dragon, of Satan. That's interesting. Revelation 12:3, and there appeared another wonder in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. God has 7 likenesses. Satan has to copy him. He's never going to be equal to him. He's such a tiny little thing compared to God being gigantic. You couldn't equal him if you wanted to. I don't know if any of you play video games. I like to. The big boss at the end is a big boss, usually the one that you have to kill in your video game. Not a little itty-bitty one. And he's as powerful as his size. You don't do it alone. Satan's tiny. I don't know what gets into his head that thinks that he can beat God or be equal to God. Okay, so we had the Dragonid meteor shower not too long ago. There's also a meteor shower tied to the asteroid, Halley's Comet, I think. And I think that's what's been going on the last couple of nights. I think last night it was 25 per hour, something like that. It just streaks across the sky. We assume they're meteors. They could be something else. Revelation 12:4, and his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, so that he could devour the child as soon as it was born. When the child is born, the war is over. The travail is over. So the rapture can't happen while the war is over, while the war is still going on. But it could end at any time. Everybody could just give up. The Antichrist could come in and work his peace treaty. I don't see it yet, but it's due. If you're in labor, it's due. You can start your labor a few weeks before the birth, but it does get very close. You're in the last month, typically, so labor can start anytime. You can get premature labor pains that just, happen and then go away, and then they don't come back for a month or two. But when you're actually fully in labor, you're close. We are close. So was it 10 days from now? The 31st? 9 days, I think. Could it be that close? The rapture could be on Halloween. That's Satan's day, because that would line up with him throwing a third of his angels to earth to attack. There's so many parallels here that it's easy to try to fit things in, and we got to be careful not to do that. But it would be a good time. We've passed all the other holidays, which I said it wouldn't be, but this is not technically a Jewish holiday. This is more of a Satan day. So it could be. It just happens that it's the time that the flood happened, and we're told, as in the days of Noah. Interesting parallel. Could be. Watch Dr. Berriaw. You have to put up with his clownery. But he's really good at knowing the Bible. And if you want to see how to properly mark your Bible up, look at his. Now, I wouldn't mark up my church Bible that way, but my study Bible definitely. Now, I don't use colored markers like he does. I don't go into that much detail, but I do underline. And I do use a pen, and I've got multiple Bibles up on my shelf that I've outgrown them, and I switch, because I don't want to go back and read the same verse that's been underlined repeatedly. I'd rather come up with a different message if there's one in there. Some people can read the same verse 100 times and get 100 different messages from God. If you underline, you're basically saying, okay, God, this is the only interpretation I'm going to take. You got to be careful with that. So I rotate my Bibles. I don't throw them out. I rotate them. They go up on the shelf. Okay. So he throws a third of his stars to earth, and he stood before the woman. I wonder who that would be if he were to come down here with the Antichrist. Would we get a chance to see him just before we leave? We know who he is. I guarantee you he's here now, and we know who he is, but he's not the Antichrist. Whoever heard of Hitler before he came to power? You know, he's got to die and come back with the demon. So is he going to get in the middle of this and say, you guys need to stop this? And then he dies because somebody doesn't like him telling him to stop this, and they shoot him? It's going to be something like that. And then he's going to come back to life and say, look, you can't get rid of me. I'm here to bring peace. And if you want to fight me, you'll die. Now, he's got to basically do that to this Muslim side, the radical Muslims. The sad part is that there are good Muslims out there. They're still wrong, but there are peace-loving Muslims. They've tried to sign agreements. But the Shiites, the radical Shiites, don't want it. So he's going to have to force them to peace. He's going to have to force them to give up the Temple Mount. So it's going to have to be someone that, not necessarily a Muslim, but somebody that has political power with them. The problem that we have is it's someone from the Roman Empire, and they controlled the land from England to Iran. So where's he from? The Roman Empire. We're not going to know until he starts doing some of the stuff, and we won't be here for that part. The Jews won't recognize him. They'll think he really is the returning Messiah. So will the Muslims, thinking he's come back for them so that they can win. But he's going to have power, and he's going to prove it to them. Okay, so that's still coming. Is it going to come this next holiday on the 31st? I wouldn't say that it's not, but I would say keep looking every day. It could happen before. Somewhere around him showing up, we got to be out of here. Is it right after so we can go, oh, that's who he is? Or is it before so we don't know until we get to heaven? Okay. I had one last... As the trees are throwing nuts down at me, I had one question I did want to answer. Can demons hurt you? Well, demons themselves can't hurt you because you have the Spirit of God in you. But you can allow them to mislead you, to guide you off where you shouldn't be. You can listen to the wrong voice. The little cartoon of the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other. It's something like that. You can hear subconsciously, maybe not consciously with the Spirit in us, but you can get people giving you advice. Oh, you can't do that. That's not something you should do. I would never do that. My mom used to do this to me all the time, and it would drive me crazy. She'd come up and go, I would never have that. Well, good, but we do. So keep it to yourself. Or I'd never do that. Just, fine, I'm not asking you to. We're going camping. I would never do that. Well, fine. You can disagree with people and still get along. All right. So the demons can't hurt you, but they can get people riled up about you. The demons are spawning a lot of this around the world stuff going on. The riots in the streets, the people going out and killing people. That's demon involvement. They're not Christians being controlled by a demon. You can't be. But you can be influenced. But what's mostly happening in the world is demons going out, influencing people to harm people, do damage. So you got to be careful where you go. Jews are told not to display their jewelry. Don't put the Star of David up. Christians should probably also think about the cross the same way. Depending on where you're going, you would think about what you're going to do. Whether it's your cap, skull cap, obviously you've got priests that wear collars and things like that. Frankly, I don't think Satan wants to bother the Catholics because you got a big split between Christian Catholics and the rest of the church. He likes the rest of the church. If the Pope is not the false prophet, he's going to be second in command maybe, because he's just said it's okay for gays to get married. The Pope is not following God. There's only one other person for him to follow, and that makes him very dangerous on this planet. All right, did I cover everything? I think that's pretty much all I've got. Just keep watching. Keep doing as much good as you can. Spread the gospel when you can. And just stay close to God. This is not the time to go wandering off. The old movie trick. There's a monster loose in the house. Let's split up. Or Alien. When the alien gets on board the ship. Let's split up. Or go looking for the cat. No. There's a man-eating creature out there. You don't go looking for it. They didn't know that, what it was. But that was the suspicion stuff. That's the tenseness that they put into these movies. They do it on purpose. And the media has taken over that. The media is just as much Hollywood now. If they were smart, they'd be an Academy Award for the best news lie. I didn't bring my drink out here, so I'm coughing again. There's dust on the table. There's probably a mixture of pollen and other stuff in there. It's dead stuff that's falling down. It's not live stuff from springtime. Everything's starting to fall off the trees. They will be completely bare. I won't be here by the time they fall off completely, but I will come back and get a picture and show you what it looks like with no leaves on most of the trees. Only the pine trees will have leaves, and for the most part, people cut down pine trees. We had a big pine beetle outbreak a few years back, and also the pine needles are very acidic. Nothing will grow under a pine tree. It messes with the soil. If you move in and you cut down pine trees, you got to treat the soil with lime, trying to get it neutralized, so then you can put topsoil in it and other ingredients to feed your plants. One of the persons here at the house likes to watch. There's a British show, and I don't know what it is. They watch on the phone, so I don't watch the actual video. But they put together small gardens, and you can tell the price differences between what's going on here and what's over there. They don't spend very much. They spend 300 pounds, which is, because of our inflation, probably close to 400 pounds. They don't do a lot. We go out here and we spend $2,000 or $3,000 in plants. Next spring, I'll show you all the people that are going out too early and putting plants in the ground. We have a false spring, and then you get a freeze, and then you have the real spring. So if you move to Georgia, remember that. Don't plant when it turns warm, because it will get a freezing weekend at least that will kill whatever you planted. And then you go back. They don't tell you about it in the news or at the garden places because they make money on that. Now, if you plant something in a pot and you can bring the pot in, that's okay. You put stuff out in your deck. There's a lot of pots here on the deck. I don't know if you can see them. There's one pot. I don't know. I don't want to take it all the way over to the house. I'm doing this as opposed to just shooting and adding on to the end, just to let you see what it looks like here. And I put the phone down too low. Okay. It's getting very dangerous. The world is beginning to turn against Israel because of all the lies, the propaganda. It's lies and propaganda, and our government does the exact same thing. They're lies and propaganda. It's the tool of Satan. Did God really mean that? You know, he's been a liar from the beginning. And he's got all of his little minions out there lying around the world. And all their little junior humans that haven't learned yet that you can't tell somebody's lying by looking at them. You know, a tree by its fruit. Fruit means you have to see something that they do. You just can't believe everything they say. And you cannot believe the news anymore. We are just as bad as any of the other controlled governments in the world. Russia, whatever. Their newspaper in Russia is called Pravda. It means truth. The irony. All right. Stay safe, people. Keep doing what you're doing, but make sure you've got your stores ready. Make sure you're ready for this when it happens, that if you've got people that are going to be left behind, make sure they're taken care of. Wills and prepping, if you've been doing it like I've been telling you, have everything ready. It's still any time. But a high watch on October 31st. God bless.